Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky and Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless you do it in front of thousands of people and television cameras. LeBron James and Russell Westbrook not talking to each other? Does it mean something? That's next on Locked On Lakers.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, particularly when news breaks. No matter how you get your podcasts and where you get your podcasts, Locked On Lakers always has fresh content available for you. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to get the show often earlier than the audio product, and it's a little different experience. We do a little visual fun there. Andy, on the YouTube channel. Make a Locked On podcast your second listen of every day. Do want to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Andy, I wonder if Bet Online has any odds, an over/under, or some sort of prop on friendship between LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, whether that's like, dinners at each other's houses, vacation time spent together, whatever it might be. If Vegas over the weekend was any indication, people would want to take the under on that. That was a weird little moment. If people missed it, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook in the building on Friday, correct, Andy? It was?
Yes, it was Friday.
To watch the Lakers' first summer league game in Vegas. And it seemed very obviously, perhaps intentionally, had no interaction with each other.
Yeah, according to multiple people in Vegas, Brian and I are unfortunately not there, but people covering the NBA.
Unfortunately.
No, I have not been to Summer League in a while. I would not mind being there, other than the whole, feels like a super spreader event.
It's too many people. Like when we used to go to Summer League, it was quaint, it was intimate. You could talk to people. It's too much of a thing now. Like it
wasn't dinner theater. Let's not overstate it. It wasn't that uncrowded, but I wouldn't mind going, but just the timing right now is bad for both of us to go to Vegas. But according to multiple people in the building, LeBron and Russ could not have been really much conceivably further from each other. Russell Westbrook was sitting along the Laker bench. LeBron was sitting under under the baskets, one of the baselines, and there was no interaction between the two, despite the fact that multiple people both were interacting with managed to talk with LeBron and Russ. Just basically,
Russ went over and was working the Lakers bench and all that kind of stuff. It was
like a quasi-assistant coach.
Is it possible they didn't know the other one was there?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, hell effing no. That is not possible.
Not possible.
That feels very, very unlikely that the two of them just happen to not cross paths, just unknowing. Oh my God, Russ was there. And also it feels even more, all the more intentional because Sunday's game that the Lakers played in Vegas, neither was there. So, maybe they both went home. Who knows?
Maybe they drove back home together. We don't know.
Maybe they did. They wanted to take that long stretch of time on the road together. I'm sure they both drove separately by themselves. One of them's going to have their car driven back.
Do you think they text each other when they get to Zizek's Road because they think it's funny too?
And it was incredibly awkward and weird, and it lends itself towards a lot of speculation that, frankly, I don't even think is reckless or irresponsible.
No, I would agree.
They're two incredibly media-savvy guys, particularly LeBron, and everybody knows how badly this season ended. Everybody knows about the rumor mill going on with Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving, and that everybody knows LeBron is a big proponent of this. which means LeBron was not interacting with the guy that he's trying to have traded.
Yeah. I mean, look, and we'll get to some of the implications of exactly what you're talking about here in a second. But I think that media savvy point is important here, because there will be people who, and I part of what I think we're going to get to is like, I kind of don't know what this means to some degree, but the people who will say, oh, this is just the media doing stuff, this is the media, making something out of nothing, whatever. Those guys are so hyper aware. They know cameras are on them. They know that everybody's watching them. They know that everybody on Media Row, because it's a summer league game, is not watching the game. They're watching to see if those two guys are going to connect in any meaningful way. Are they going to shake hands? Are they just going to like nod at each other? Whatever. So like all these people who might be saying, oh, maybe we don't even know if they could have had steak dinner that night. Like we didn't see it or whatever. The fact that they didn't interact with each other, knowing full well that everybody was watching them to see if it would happen and what that interaction would look like, is intentional on both of their parts. And they know full well what not interacting with each other means. They know what the reaction is going to be. They know it's going to be the lead topic on this podcast and Lakers Twitter and NBA Twitter and all the Twitters. And so that they didn't, you cannot tell me, you cannot convince me that it isn't intentional.
Plus, also, I mean, let's be honest about this. Remove the context of what's going on with the Lakers and the Kyrie Irving drama and Russ's involvement in this, LeBron's involvement in all this. Strip all that away. Two superstar teammates in the same building, never interacting at a flipping summer league game. That's weird.
Not
anyway.
Even just like, hey, man, how are you? How's the wife? How's the kids?
That's weird.
Yeah.
Period. That's weird. Like, even if you had no reason, to think heading into this game, oh, whoa, wonder if LeBron and Russ have some static going on. You're going to think it after that under any circumstances. That's strange.
And,
when I'm at NBA games, I interact with like other media members I don't even like, but I do the polite thing. You give head nods, you do whatever.
One of these.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
But it's in, especially in the context of last season, the disaster that was last season, and this idea that, Russ, what exactly, Russ kind of torched LeBron and AD. They say let Russ be Russ, but they never actually let me do it. These guys, Russ is rubbing everybody's head. That was like the weirdest moment, one of the weirdest, low key, underrated, weird moments of the season, when like the Lakers are down. Russ is rubbing like LeBron's head and AD's head, like trying to pick him up on the bench in this sort of cosplay of leadership. That was very, very not well received by both LeBron and Anthony Davis. There was a very strong GTFO energy there, projected by both of the other Lakers stars. You're right. You don't even need the Kyrie context to make this into something that would be weird. But Andy, the fact is the Kyrie context is there. So I want to ask you about that.
Kyrie was there. Kyrie was actually in Vegas for Summer League for at least some of that weekend.
And then Kyrie was in LA watching a Sparks game, adding to the intrigue. But I want to ask you about that dynamic, the LeBron, Kyrie, and Westbrook dynamic there. And then I also want to ask you about whether or not any of this stuff that the Lakers are trying to do, with how Darvin Ham talks about Westbrook, which he did again on Sunday on the broadcast for NBA TV. Love Russell Westbrook. Excited to have him on the team. The way Rob Pelinka's talked about him. Does any of that still matter? So we'll do that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including league reviews, podcasts, news, updates. You got Major League Baseball, boxing, MMA, NFL futures, NHL futures, NBA futures, everything. It is never too early to start betting on the 2023 NBA champions. There's been some movement, by the way, in the latest lines. I was looking at them. Boston Celtics, who just got Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari, lost in the finals. They are currently the clubhouse leader at 6-1, followed by the Bucks at plus 625. The Warriors, the defending champs, plus 650. Lakers plus 1,000. Also MVP early odds. Luka, the clubhouse leader, at plus 425. LeBron, 8th ranked, plus 2,000. So he's a 20-1 odds for MVP right now. Anthony Davis, 50-1. Russell Westbrook, 150-1. So the Lakers ought to be careful about dealing that guy. Just saying. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the games start.
Darvin Ham, again, on Sunday's broadcast, on the NBA TV broadcast, typical thing. They bring guys through and they talk to them. They do the interviews during the game and all that. Darvin Ham sits down with the broadcast team and again talks about Russell Westbrook and how excited they are to have him on the team and, pumping him up. We did our show Friday noting that, in this interview with Mark Spears at ESPN, Ham noted like he's going to start, like we're going to unleash Russ, and we're going to make him a better, the version of him that we all are accustomed, all this stuff. And, Westbrook was there for Ham's introductory press conference. Good sign. I've made the point a few times. The Lakers can kind of go through this theater and pretend with a new coach and new context and all this stuff that it's almost like last year didn't happen. It's a do-over. They can just play act their way through last year. May not work, but at least it's a starting point that everybody can start fresh. Can you do that if LeBron's relationship with Westbrook doesn't seem to be there? Can LeBron and Westbrook play act their way through this in the same way that Darvin and the Lakers and Westbrook seem willing to try?
I mean, in some sense, no, because nobody believes it anyway. So you're not going to be convincing along these lines. There's just been too much smoke in terms of the Kyrie Irving thing. And also, Russ's exit interview was really aggressively finger pointing. He pretty much pointed, he did, to Russ's credit, say, I did not play well enough. I didn't have a good season. I need to be better. But he seemed to think that a lot of people around him were a big reason that he did not play very well. So
exactly.
I mean, where this stands right now in July may have no bearing on where it stands in October when training camp opens, and it is, at least for that moment, clear you guys are going to have to work together because for the time being, Russell Westbrook is not going to turn into Kyrie Irving or Buddy Hield or whoever the hell else you want him to be. And reminder, LeBron, you are a big, big reason that Russ is here in the first place. So you're going to have to make this thing work. I think it could be really awkward. But here's the thing, though, too. If, say, we start getting to middle of August, early September, and it's become really clear for one reason or another, including Kevin Durant has reconciled things with Brooklyn.
Or that just Brooklyn hasn't gotten the offer that they want.
Sure. But if Durant reconciles with Brooklyn, I think the odds of Brooklyn keeping Kyrie Irving are considerably higher.
I think they're damn near 100%.
Right. So we may start reaching a point where if, say, September, this thing has been worked out and Kyrie's not going to get moved, LeBron and Russ may need to just hash this thing out between them and figure out a way to have a icily professional relationship.
I think it's not that the Lakers are looking to trade Westbrook, because I think, the play acting that I referred to, for example, can happen in a world where, on the one hand, the LeBron, like Westbrook is not stupid. He knows the Lakers are trying to move him, but where they can say all the right stuff about him and then also be trying to trade him. Because again, I don't think Westbrook objects to the idea of being traded. I don't think he necessarily wants.
He's gotten really used to it lately.
I know, like, what would it be, 5 teams in 5 years or whatever it is.
It's quite the punch card.
I don't think 2 more and he gets a free latte. That's right. I don't think it's problematic to do it that way because they're saying all the right stuff. They're treating him with respect. They're talking about him in language that Westbrook can't really object to, but it's also a business. We're trying to satisfy your needs. We're trying to satisfy our needs. The stuff that I think gets potentially really problematic are the reports, Stein had it, other people have had it, that LeBron is pushing really hard to get the Kyrie thing done. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to come at the expense of Westbrook in a I hate Russ kind of way. He could just look at it the same way a lot of us do, that despite Kyrie's Kyrie-ness, he is a way better fit for what they're trying to do, and it benefits everybody, including Russ, to figure this out. And maybe that's the context of it. But that's the part that I think is hard, because Russ, in the same way that it would have been hard, it was hard to like bring back all the young guys, because after the trade deadline, that first year after LeBron, because every single one of them knew LeBron tried to run them out of the building.
In Indiana, Brandon Ingram was at the line and he was hearing from the crowd, LeBron's going to trade you.
Right.
Which, admittedly, clever, but still,
but
Rajon Rondo conceded that trade deadline period was, nerve-rattling for everybody, including himself. Like, Rondo's been in the league, decade plus at that point. But nobody enjoys feeling like they could get relocated unless they want to be relocated. If you are happy where you are as a player, nobody enjoys that period. I don't care how long you've been in the league.
So what I'm really curious to see, because in the next segment, I want to ask you about leverage here, because we've talked a lot about leverage with Brooklyn over the Lakers, any leverage the Lakers might have over Brooklyn, because right now the Lakers are really the only team that is reportedly at all interested in trading for Kyrie. That's their leverage. Brooklyn's is, you think it's hard to trade Kyrie Irving? Go check out the market for Russell Westbrook if you think that's good. That's going to be simple. And now, if you think you want to try to win, you got to get this done. So there are pressure points, whatever. One that we haven't talked about, though, necessarily, is whether or not LeBron would use a trade like this as leverage over the Lakers regarding the extension that the Lakers can give him on, I believe, August 4th is the first day the Lakers could make that offer. They're certainly expected to do it. And currently the assumption is that LeBron will accept it. I'd be really interested to see at this point, between now and then, if you see a little movement from, Camp LeBron or something, where some nice things about Westbrook leak or something like that, just to change the tenor of this, because I think everybody understands still a very good chance that they open the season on the same team.
Maybe LeBron just didn't want to share his snacks in Vegas. LeBron showed up to Summer League with a Ziploc bag of his own little snacks. I actually tweeted out this photo.
Right, it went viral.
It did go viral.
One of our most viral tweets was your picture of LeBron James eating his own snacks out of a Ziploc bag.
You know what? Good for him, man. I mean, if they don't carry what you want in that arena, I don't care if you're LeBron James. I don't care how much money you have. You want to eat what you want to eat.
Here's the thing. LeBron James treats his body like a temple. There is nothing that you can get at the concession stand at the Thomas and Mack Center that will not defile that temple.
I do
a guarantee.
I do want to apologize to LeBron before we get to this leverage point conversation with the photo. A lot of comments we had at Cam Brothers something to the degree of LeBron looks high AF. That's my fault for the picture. Let's make this clear.
Andy taking a picture of his television paused on the DVR.
Oh, actually, take it a step further. This was I was watching on my laptop because the Den TV was being used by my wife and daughter.
Low-key flex it. You have multiple TVs. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I live large, baby.
Look at you.
But I just want to make it clear. The LeBron,
stars, they're just like us.
LeBron high AF. That was the photo.
Right.
Whether he ended up high AF at some point, none of my business. It's the summer.
Right.
I'm just saying the photo itself was misrepresentative of what LeBron actually looked like.
Now, why would Andy post a photo of LeBron looking high AF?
I'm just saying, I did feel kind of bad for LeBron when I started seeing all that. I'm like, I don't mind.
Well, particularly since he looks that way and he's snacking.
Yeah,
the munchies.
I know a lot. There's a lot in there, and I don't feel bad at all.
LeBron's fault. It's not LeBron's fault,
right? That the tweet of him with his own snacks went viral. Like, I'm not in any way mocking him for bringing his own snacks. I'm not in any way saying like cheap ass, whatever. Like LeBron should do whatever he wants. I feel bad for that though. Like once I started seeing those comments, the tweet had already gone viral.
Right. We're not pulling it back.
No.
Drawing attention to the show. All right. So let's ask this question about leverage next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers and makes and models out there, it is impossible to stock all the parts you would need in a traditional chain storefront. And look, you don't want to spend 30, 50, 100% more for the exact same auto parts at a chain store or new car dealership anyway, getting played by some shady salesperson openly treating you like a sucker, talking down to you like you are a fool. You can get it for way less at rockauto.com.
Yeah, LeBron's not doing that. A man who brings his own snacks into the arena is not going to be taken by a
absolutely
or a chain
not.
store.
No matter how high AF he looks in that moment.
He'll bring his own Honda Odyssey fuel pump.
Yeah, Honda Odyssey fuel pump, by the way, from a chain store, usually $353, $216 from Rock Auto. They're a family business. They've been serving auto part customers online for 20 years. So go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
All right, so Andy, in this sort of new world of work that we live in, pants have become an incredibly important and like multifaceted thing. You got to be able to fit that. If you're going to a business meeting, you can wear the same pair of pants that maybe you're going on a hike and maybe you're running around with your kids and you stop by the office for a couple hours or whatever. You need like lifestyle clothing that crosses lifestyles, and that's what Doer. DUER provides. These are the makers of incredibly comfortable clothes, particularly incredibly comfortable pants that are incredibly versatile. What I love about them, performance and simplicity. These are staple items in your wardrobe. Pants that you can wear to work, you can wear to the park, you can wear on a hike, and they look right and they look good no matter how you're doing it. The fabrics are soft, they're supple, they keep their shape, and they move with you throughout the day. I got a pair of the jeans. I have the Live Free Adventure pants. I have the No Sweat joggers, and I love them all. I got a polo, I got a t-shirt. I know, Andy, you have the same stuff, and we're both really excited that we can talk about a clothing brand that we genuinely love to wear. We've been down to the store, 170 South La Brea in Mid-City. Whether you go visit it in person, again, 170 South La Brea, or you're checking it out at shopdoer.com, 15% off if you use our discount code LOCKEDON15. That's exclusive to this show, Locked On Lakers, Locked On 15 at the store, 170 South La Brea in Mid-City, or at shopdoer.com. Go feel the stuff. If you're in LA, go feel it, go try it on. You'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. If not, order it. Trust us. It's incredibly comfortable clothing. You're going to enjoy it. Locked On 15, shopdoer.com. So before we get to this question of LeBron and leverage and whether or not this trade has any influence on whether or not he'd sign the extension, we did get this tweet from Lakers Purple and Gold at Path to Rings. He sent this to us at Cam Brothers. Danilo Gallinari, Otto Porter, Gary Harris, and Dante DiVincenzo all signed contracts that the Lakers could have afforded instead of paying Lonnie Walker, and all fit desperate needs. I'm not sure if anyone is keeping tabs. Swap out Gary Harris for Bruce Brown here, but the rest of the tweet makes sense. I would like to point out everyone is keeping tabs. So Lakers Purple and Gold at Path to Rings, please feel confident that literally everyone in Lakers Nation is keeping tabs on whether or not this turns out to be a good idea. Andy and I, to this point, have a podcast coming up later this week with Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs, a deep dive scouting report into Lonnie Walker Jr., what worked in San Antonio, what didn't work in San Antonio, what might work better for the Lakers.
And a lot about him as a person, too.
And a lot about him as a person. But I can assure you, Andy, and tell me if you disagree, everyone is keeping tabs on this whole thing, and everyone is painfully aware of the players that seemed to be better fits or bigger needs that the Lakers weren't willing to give a second year to, perhaps, or maybe weren't interested, whatever it might be, signing Lonnie Walker really quickly before any of these other guys were off the market.
Yeah, Brian, similar to the way people were keeping tabs on whether LeBron and Russell Westbrook looked in each other's direction in a summer league game, for example.
Yeah, for example. All right, so I asked this question about leverage. Keep an eye on for this podcast with Jeff Garcia coming later in the week. I did ask the question, like, do you think LeBron would play his hand really hard, let's say, and maybe add more public pressure than what's out there? It's reported LeBron really wants Kyrie here, ostensibly instead of Westbrook. Does he turn that into, I'm not going to sign my extension until I see what's going on here. I'm not going to commit to this team until I can see that the team is committed to making itself better this year. Do you think it gets to that point? I don't think where we are yet is what that is.
I think it definitely could. I mean, LeBron's history is applying maximum pressure, whether you are talking about, the series of 1-year deals where you are always in dazzle LeBron mode. If you are that franchise in the front office and trying to get that next year commitment, you start that dance all over again. Whether you're talking about in the past teammates that he's wanted to have with different franchises. We mentioned before what went on with LeBron and the trade deadline that didn't lead to Anthony Davis, but led to incredible awkwardness and frankly, pretty, I would say honestly, pretty bad leadership from LeBron when it came to the way he was allowing his other teammates to twist in the wind, because they all knew exactly how he felt about this. He was, taking up for Anthony Davis for his desire to get traded in the first place. I remember he wrote this Instagram post that was ostensibly taking up for Harrison Barnes, the indignity that he suffered being traded essentially mid-game, and saying, like, this is why players should be able to go wherever they wanted, which really was not about Harrison Barnes. This was about Anthony Davis wanting to become a Laker. And, it really turned into a can't put the toothpaste back in the tube type thing for the Lakers. He also got what he wanted.
I think that the only difference here is I think that there's probably, I would like to think there is some sense on the part of Team LeBron that the Lakers don't really control the timeline on this. And that understanding, therefore, that even if they work on it and they work on it and they work on it, that there is a limit as to what the Lakers can do other than show LeBron that they're trying, because they don't really have the hammer here in terms of like the one piece that they're leaving out of a trade or this or that or whatever. It's really up to Brooklyn when they want to do this. The other really interesting question I think that comes of it is just broadly whether or not LeBron recognizes that his overall leverage isn't the same now at age 30. He's going into his 38 year, or correct? He's 37 going into 38, I think. It's not the same as the leverage you have when you're 27 going into your 28. And so if he plays it the same way, which I don't think he would, but it's the context for LeBron changes as well. So that's sort of the other part of it that I'll be looking for over the next month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long this plays out.
I mean, look, I don't know if, given who the Lakers have always been, if LeBron turning 38 this season actually undercuts his leverage. I don't know just how badly the Lakers want to keep him or would actually be willing to let him walk. But I also don't know if LeBron is aware of this, and this might get back to Jeannie Buss's cryptic tweet, that felt like it was about LeBron, felt like somebody inside the organization not understanding the importance of putting team goals ahead of personal goals. And, there have been reports of the front office not being entirely unified on Kyrie Irving and the willingness to bring him in, certainly the willingness to potentially commit long-term to him. I don't know if LeBron actually feels like his leverage may not be the same now. I'm not even 100% sure his leverage isn't the same as it would be.
And I'm also not. I'm not even. I can't even put a percentage on how not sure I am that he's exercising it in the same way. But it's just funny, Andy, that so much of this comes out of a moment in the summer league where two guys make a point out of not communicating in a place that people can see. And
one
I think
last
it
thing
goes back to what we were saying. There's a 0% chance that those guys don't know it.
Yeah. The last point I would make on that, and I preface this by saying I don't know this 100%, but this is just the way logically it would play out to me.
Mm-hmm.
They're both hyper aware of this, and they're both aware of how it looks. But I have to imagine that it is being instigated more on LeBron's end than Russ's, just because Russ so far has been going out of his way to play the role of the guy looking to ingratiate himself with the organization better. With the constant contact with Darvin Ham, with sitting with the team. Logically speaking, and look, Russ can be one stubborn mother effer himself, and that being said, though, it feels much more like something that would be instigated or initiated or, I guess, stretched out more on LeBron's end than Russ's, just because it makes more sense from LeBron's end.
Yeah, I will. To your point, and I think there's a lot that goes in. We don't have time to do it right now. We got the rest of the week. I just think LeBron controls the perception of this issue more than Westbrook does. That I completely agree with. LeBron silence on a week's worth of a news cycle of they didn't talk to each other in Vegas. A continued silence from that might mean something. And so we'll keep an eye on what's going on. Reminder that Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to get all the news early. Recommend everybody subscribe there. Shop Doer, DUER, 15% off. Locked On 15, whether at the store or online. Make sure you check out all their stuff. It is really genuinely great. We'll see everybody on Tuesday.